Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My dear audience, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today is 23rd March 2021. While there was another 23rd March in the history of subcontinent. It was 23rd March 1940. Today the point of discussion is why 23rd March 1940 came in the history of subcontinent. I want to discuss not in much detail but briefly. I want to discuss few things. Qaeda Muhammad Ali Jinnah said, Pakistan came to existence on the day when first Hindu embraced Islam in this region which is called India. Muslims ruled here for centuries. Every person knows this biggest of the biggest reality. You know, Muhammad bin Qasim came here and conquered Debal in 712 AD. After Muhammad bin Qasim, there are a number of rulers who were conquering different regions, who were ruling for centuries this region. Muslims and non-Muslims, especially Hindus, were living here in this region side by side. While we have to accept this thing that they are living with each other because there were ruling Muslims. We can't say that these were Islamic governments, but Muslims were ruling this region for centuries. And while in 1707 AD, the last powerful, very strong emperor, Muslim emperor Aurangzeb Alamgir died. After the death of King Aurangzeb, the Muslim India or India had been broken into pieces, and the people, the Rajas, the Maharajas, and few Muslims, Pathan, Marathas, at different areas, they used to start ruling. Now, there was not any type of unity in this region. And because of this, this region became the center of problems. There were number of problems, and especially Muslims were facing those difficulties because Muslims had been ruling the region, because they were the people whom used to implement equality of rights for all nations. But it's also amazing and painful that Hindus were not accepting the Muslim rule. By heart, they were not with the Muslims. Even in the court of Akbar, there were a number of Hindus ministers and at other powerful places. Anyhow, after death of Aurangzeb, the declines of Muslim rule, and Muslims started. Now, Marathas and some other people who were not Muslims used to attack at the places, at the towns, at the cities where Muslims were living. They used to loot them. They used to kill them, and they burned their crops at number of places. In round about 1757 in Bengal, Sirajuddaula was murdered. And in 1799, Tipu, who was the last hope, I used to say that Tipu was the last hope for Muslims. He was not only last hope of Muslims, but he was also last hope of the people of subcontinent, because foreigners had come and now they are conquering us. Tipu was from with us. Tipu was a great man. He was a person of ideas. He was recalling his past, and he wanted to implement, he wanted to refresh our past days. But there were traitors, and because of those traitors, Tipu could not fulfill his dream. It was not the dream of only Tipu Sultan. It was also the dream of ours. It was the dream of Muslims. It was the dream of all the people of subcontinent. And after 1799, the real decline had been started. Now I want to use word Frangi. Now the Frangi had entered in Delhi in 1803, and now they were all in all in this region. The last fight we fought in 1857 against Britain rule, but we could not win 1857 fight. Jang-e-Azadi, war for freedom, and we could not, and we had been defeated in this. It is reality. Why we were defeated? It is some type of other discussion. Today we can't discuss. We are not discussing why we had been defeated. Anyhow, now the people of this region were facing Britain rule. They were facing number of difficulties. Now they were facing, especially Muslims were facing also Hindus' negative activities against Muslims. And in 1837, Persian language was which was official language of the region. People were habitual. People were used to use this language, and this language had been replaced by English. Because now English had become our official language. Even today, English is our uh, official language. Anyhow, uh, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan was another very brave leader, and he was really very studious person, and he was well-wisher of the people of subcontinent, well-wisher of India. Now he was the ambassador of Muslim and Hindus unity. But in 1867, in Banaras, Hindu and Muslim fought on the base of languages. Now Hindus wanted to replace Urdu by Bhasha, or you can say Sanskrit or Hindi. And Sir Syed Ahmad Khan said, he was sitting at that time with the commissioner. His name was Shakespeare. And Sir Syed Ahmad Khan said, Mr. Shakespeare, now it is a cruel reality that Muslims and Hindus will not live with each other. The person, the people who will alive, they will see that now these two nations cannot live, cannot absorb each other's ideas. Now they cannot bear, they will not bear each other. So it will become very cruel reality. And my dear audience, it had become a cruel reality, bitter reality, that now Hindus and Muslims were fighting with each other. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan initially tried his best to solve the situation from the platform of Aligarh College, but he could not. At the end, he was also writing articles for the right of Urdu language for the Muslims of this region. My dear audience, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan died in 1898, but we can say that he was the person who changed the situation of this region. He was trying his best for unity, but he could not, because Hindus were not allowing this thing. Now there was a generation who had been taught, who had been trained by Sir Syed Ahmad Khan School of Thought, Sir Syed School of Thought in 19 and I tell you, in 1885 Congress had been built, or you can say Congress came into existence in 1885. Now, after 1885, the person who made this Congress was A.O. Hume. He was not Hindu. He was from Britain, and this Congress was working for the rights of Hindus, not for the rights of Muslims. Therefore, Muslims were not participating in this party. Just few Muslims were members of this party. But Sir Syed Ahmad Khan said, he said that we should not be part of this party. Therefore, in 1906, Muslims made another League and other party in Dhaka, Muslim League. Yes, Muslim League was the first party, you can say, who was leading Muslims. In 1905, there was another incident in Bengal. The Muslims of Bengal wanted they were not wanted to live with Hindus in this region. So uh, you can say in 1907 was 1905 was also another deciding year. And after 1905 there was another year which was deciding year in 1911. Yes. Now in 1914 World War I had been started, which remained for 4 years. In 1918, the war had been ended. But as you know, Turkey was ally of Germany, and Germany and Turkey had been defeated worstly by the Allied forces. So Turkey had been divided into pieces, had been divided into different regions, and it was the will of Britain. It was the will of allies. So Khilafat movement had been started for the unity of Muslims, for the Khilafat. And also, you know, Gandhi was part and parcel of the Khilafat movement. Unfortunately, Khilafat movement could not achieve his goal, but minimally. But I tell you, it's right. It's right that Khilafat movement could not achieve his goal, but Hindu and Muslim unity's dream had been shattered in 1923-24. Now they were not part and parcel in this movement, and in 1929, Nehru report also shattered this unity. And in 1928, Nehru report, this report had been put in 1928. And this now it was very, very clear that we cannot live with each other now in future. So Qaeda Muhammad Ali Jinnah put his 14 points in 1929, and after all, in 1930, Allama Muhammad Iqbal Rahmatullah alayh, he addressed in Allahabad, and now he gave us another dream, another goal, another destination, and that was the destination of a country. And now you know, Allama Iqbal was a person who always working. His all falsafa is about millah. But I tell you, Allama Iqbal Rahmatullah alayh came to know that now this philosophy is not applicable. So Allama Iqbal gave us another philosophy of a homeland. In 1937, there was an election and Congress won this election. Muslims of India also voted to Congress, but in next 2 years, the real shape of Congress and Hindus uh, became very bitter. It was very difficult time for the Muslims of India, and now they used to know very clearly that it is not easy to live with Hindus in future. So the dream of united India had been shattered into pieces. Therefore, in 1940, now Muslims of India arranged a conference and a resolution of Lahore, which was a resolution of Lahore, not resolution of Pakistan initially, what had been passed. But Hindu press were crying, were shrieking that it is not resolution of Lahore, it is resolution of Pakistan. So the Muslims said, okay, it's okay. Now it will become now it will become resolution of Pakistan. So my dear audience, it was the background why 23rd March 1940 came in the history of subcontinent and India. For once we were rulers of this region, and it was much decline that we became slaves, not only slaves of Britain, but also slaves of Hindus. And you know, Hindu mind is uh, uh, is full of prejudices. Even today, Hindus are not accepting. Even today, Hindus are unable to accept the existence of Pakistan because of this. Because of this, I tell you, this state came in the history of this region, and after very hard struggle of the Muslims of this region, in 1947 Pakistan came into existence. And I tried my best uh, to clear the scene